if I had the opportunity of going back and starting from the beginning, I think the place I would have started with was going around and talking to each of my employees first and finding out what makes them happy, what doesn't make them happy, what do they think the company could do better. I probably spent the first 90 to 180 days trying to figure the business out itself and look at the financials and things that were easy for me versus really understanding how the employees felt. What was the culture like? I should have started there and got that started. It would have made that data gathering of the first 180 days a lot better and much more impactful, because it would have been the people of the company telling me how the company should be ran, not balance sheets and financial documents. An NAICS code is a code that is established by the Office of Management and Budget out of Washington, D.C. Once every 5 years, you have the ability of applying to have a code specific to you. We in the restoration space, as most of the audience knows, it's the wild, wild west here. Like there's limited regulations in our space, and therefore, as we do not have a code, we are lumped in with every other contractor out there. So when the federal government looks at us, or insurance providers look at us, or researchers look at us, we're not our independent group. We are no different than a painter or a drywaller is today. So it very much would benefit the entire industry if we had the ability of having our own code. And I'm thrilled to tell you that under RIA's leadership, about a month and a half ago, we applied for a code, which is huge. So unfortunately, we won't know until 2027 whether they accept it or not, or at least we're on the path to get there. By having our own code, there's a number of value drivers that will come to the individual restorer. First and foremost, if any of you are out there doing municipal government work, state government work, or even the federal or Department of Defense, today, the way it typically operates is someone on the engineering side says, oh my gosh, we need a restorer. They move over to the acquisition side of the federal government and say, go put a contract out there. And those folks struggle because we don't have a code. So therefore, when they do put a solicitation out, plumbers can bid on the job, drywallers can bid on it, not people like the members of RIA that are certified, IICRC certified in the disciplines they are. From a pricing standpoint, it gives us the ability of defining really who we are. And most of us today use some form of Xactimate for pricing or something close to that. We basically have a standardized pricing out there anyway. It would give us the flexibility of pricing to, as we see fit, value, but it does kind of standardize a little bit of that because there's more data for the industry to understand who we are and what we do. And that's probably the most important piece is there is no definition today in the marketplace of who we are and what we do. So take, for example, unfortunately, the California fires that just took place. Our restorers are butting up against every other contractor that's trying to get into that space at that time of disaster. If we had our own code, the federal government may say, everybody with this code, you're allowed through your emergency services. So there's the ability of that happening for us. It'll streamline a lot of our activities, even with commercial customers. A lot of commercial customers use that code as the first vetting period, whether you're trained properly or you're not trained properly. The last thing I would say is, I know none of us want more regulation, but having some regulation in a space that has zero regulation would mean a lot. And here's what I mean by that. If the federal government was able to grant us this code, and we built legislation or regulation, that specifies that somebody that's going to work on a water disaster at least is trained WTR from IICRC, right? Today, it's the wild, wild west as it relates to not having a code. We are not regulated, and no regulation isn't good either, because what no regulation has done is it's opened us up to municipal and states that a constituent in the state has a problem with fire chasing or has a problem with the price that we gave, and the elected official will listen to them and begin to enact their own legislation in the state. So we then begin to have a challenge at the state level. I'm not saying this code will eliminate all of that, but this code will eliminate a lot of that, because the first place the states are going to go, or one of the primary places they go, is back to the feds to see if any legislation is in place already. So it's going to be really good for us if we get this code in place. If you're not a member of RIA, I don't understand that. It's a couple $100 a year. And I would tell you that the question is specific to legislation, so I'll stay there. But the reality is that in the state of New Jersey, a week or so ago, we were able to stop legislation that would have impacted the restorers that do work in the state of New Jersey drastically. If you're not an RIA member, you still benefit from the work that RIA did. However, in states where legislation is passed that impacts a legislator, RIA, at least we tell all our members, we tell the members in that state, this is a new regulation that you need to comply with. If you're not a member, you don't get that data. So I can tell you pain stories of restoration companies that have not followed the state law because they didn't know what the state law was, and significantly it impacted their business by not getting paid what they were owed. For example, in the state of North Carolina, if you're not a registered restorer in the state, there's regulations to how much you can charge for the business that you do. So if you're not a member, I don't get that. Like I said, I get so many benefits just from networking with other people and understanding their best practices. But from a legislation space, we communicate out to the members exactly how something's going to impact them so that they can take the appropriate action for their employees. Survey after survey shows that legislative action on behalf of the members, most members find extremely valuable. I think where we're going to head is we're going to head down a path where you, the RIA member, can get more engaged. And what I mean by that is twofold, really. One, you're in your local community, you see what's going on, you read your local papers or watch your local news. You get an understanding of what's taken place. If something just doesn't look right to you, there's a place on the RIA website that you can communicate that message, or you absolutely can pick up the phone and give me a call and let me know what you see. But the last place is, think about a congressional member in the state of New Jersey that's trying to pass legislation. If I'm calling that elected official from the state of Maryland, they can care less what I think about the way the law should be in the state of New Jersey. But if you are a restorer in the state of New Jersey with employees and you're paying taxes in the state of New Jersey, they would much rather hear from you. And I think where we're going to head is we'll put together some training programs, and those of you that are interested in helping us in a grassroots effort, we'll go that route. The last place to go is with lobbyists, and lobbyists come at a cost. And it's not that RIA is not willing to make those investments where we see a major need, but why spend the money if we could get a restorer that's willing to go knock on the door of a congressional member and have a conversation with them?